This is by a guy called Rob Fitzpatrick. You can also find some videos of him on YouTube. And the name comes from this. First of all, if you're going to try out your idea, don't interview your mom, okay? Because if your mom is anything like mine, depending on whether she's happy with you or unhappy with you at the time, her views about your product will either be, oh yes, my son, he's so smart, and yes, it must be great, or oh, he didn't do this or that, so no, I'm unhappy, so no, that won't work at all. Her views about you has a halo effect, and it will affect the feedback that they provide to you about the product. So typically, don't go to family members, don't go to relatives, definitely don't go to your mom for feedback about your product. Unless your customer segment really is mothers directly, then again, you have to be careful in how they're interviewed. And the mom test here is how to talk to customers and learn your business is a good idea when everyone is lying to you. Okay, so that's not what I was looking for. But the book is about, even if you're interviewing your mother, are there things that you can do to get honest, real information, real feedback from even your mother? Okay. So let's say you have a product idea. Let's say you have a product idea and it's going to be an electronic cookbook. Sound good? I'd try it. I'd think about it. And you go to your mom and you say, hey, I've got a business idea. Let me try it out. Okay. What do you think about this? So, and she might be busy, but you're her son or her daughter. So you have an iPad, right? You use it a lot, blah, blah. Yes. Okay, so would you ever buy an app which was like a cookbook for your iPad? Well, watch out, immediately, oh, yes, that would be written. No, it's just, well, yeah. But you don't get the signal, and it only costs $40. That's cheaper than those hardcovers on your shelf, because he has some cookbooks, okay? $40 for an app. What's the response? Well, but he doesn't see it, okay? And you can share recipes with your friends. It's connected to social media. You can share it with, your Facebook, WhatsApp group and everything, right? You can put it up onto Facebook. There's an iPhone app, which is your shopping list, okay? So it also automatically sends it to your shopping list. And videos of that celebrity chef you love, probably Jamie Oliver, okay? So he's trying to sell it to her, despite some potential problems. And at the end, oh, well, yes, honey, that sounds amazing. And you're right, $40 is a good deal. Will it have pictures of the recipes? Look, she's even making suggestions. Oh, great, a feature to add on to the cookbook. Yes, we have success. Was this a good interview? Do you think that this idea with this customer actually has a chance? Thanks, Mom, love you. And then makes her run for it. Before, would you like some lasagna? Anytime you go home, you should eat there. What do you think? Was this good, valuable information? Or do you think that there are some question marks or warning signs? I know, how many of your mothers have bought an iPhone or iPad app for $40, right? Especially if you're in Turkey, nobody's bought an app for even a couple of lira, right? So again, who's your target audience and so on. So what else could have been done? Okay. So, hey mom, how's that new iPad treating you? So she has an iPad. Ask some questions about the iPad and how she's using it. Oh, I love it. I use it every day. Good. She probably plays, solitaire or something like that. That's what my mom uses it for. Even Facebook, she forgets how to get on. So, when I visit, I have to restart everything and so on. What do you usually do on it? So rather than asking her, how would you use an iPad? Ask her what she really does on it. Okay. And sometimes she might lie. Okay. She might not tell you what she actually does on it to make it seem better, but not bad. But ask about what really happened. When was the last time and stuff like this. Oh, I read the news. I play Sudoku as opposed to solitaire. Catch up with my friends, the usual. What's the last thing you did on it? Your father and I are planning a trip. I was figuring out where we could stay. Oh, really? Interesting, right? I didn't know my mom uses her iPad to find, tickets or places to stay or place to visit. Really? She does that? Wow. Did you use an app for that? No, I just used Google. Okay. So rather than app, you use Google. I didn't know there was an app. What's it called? Do you know how to load an app onto your iPad without me doing it? Now that's interesting. So she knows about apps at least. And, so where did you find out about the other ones that you use? The Sunday paper has a section on the apps of the week. People read a newspaper to find out about what apps to install onto their iPad. Your mom, maybe. Who reads a newspaper anymore, right? Your parents, your grandparents, maybe, right? So this, if your target audience is going to be mothers, grandmothers, then yeah, perhaps getting something written about it in a newspaper might actually work. Not if you're trying to sell to high school students or university students, but if your customer demographic actually does find out information about this from newspapers, yes, this might be quite appropriate. This is interesting. This is about channels. This is about where to advertise. And it might be relatively easy and cheap to reach this. Makes sense. Hey, by the way, I saw a couple of new cookbooks on the shelf. Where did those come from? Actual things you saw. So this person apparently does have cookbooks. Not everyone has them. And so it might be an interesting customer segment. They have actual cookbooks. Do they want digital versions of those? But where did those come from? They're one of those things you just end up getting at Christmas. I think Marcy gave me that one. Haven't even opened it, as if I made another lasagna recipe. Aha, interesting. What's interesting about this? Maybe this is a new customer segment for you. Rather than people buying cookbooks for themselves, people trying to find a nice gift to give other people for Bayram or for New Year's or for Christmas and stuff like that. So because, it's not easy to buy gifts for everyone. And, people are buying physical cookbooks. So would they buy a digital cookbook for somebody that has an iPad and is using it? So totally new business model or customer segment here potentially. She might still be the user, but might not be the actual customer. What's the last cookbook you did buy for yourself? Trying to dig in a little further. Now that you mention it, I bought a vegan cookbook about 3 months ago. Your father's trying to eat healthier and thought my veggies would benefit from a pinch more of zest. So For example, if you're getting older and are having problems with your health and you're trying to switch what and how you eat, okay, then a cookbook might be useful. But somebody that's been cooking the same way, the same foods for 50 years, probably isn't going to want a cookbook. But somebody that is trying to get into a new style of living and type of eating, yeah, those might be more suitable. So vegan or exact opposites. You know, at one time there was the Atkins diet, you know, just meat, nothing else, and so on. So maybe helping them with these kind of different approaches to preparing food. But again, you know, he's digging in and finds out, well, maybe this is what you might want to go into, look into. Okay. So what lessons can be drawn out of this? Rather than telling them, oh, this is what I'm trying to develop, would you use it? Would you pay this much for it? Ask them questions about them, what they're doing, and so on. And don't force them to make a decision on the spot about, is this a good idea or not? Okay? Let them tell you and extract information about the idea from what they tell you. Ask about specifics in the past instead of generics or opinions about the future. Ask me, do I try to eat healthy? How do I eat healthy? Well, I try to eat a lot of salads. I try, you know, to make sure, I'm actually trying intermittent fasting right now. Okay, so I haven't eaten for more than 10 hours. So I'll eat around 12. And no, actually, it's more than 10. It's going to be about 14 hours. So we'll see. But, you know, so in my view, in my mind, yeah, I try to be healthy. I have salads. I have this and that. But what was the last thing I ate? Well, you know, around midnight yesterday, I kind of had a craving. I went and there was a chocolate bar. I ate it. And then I opened up some potato chips and I had that. So if you ask me how I eat, I'll think about, you know, how should Adi Doran eat? And what should he do? What should he say he does? But if you ask me about what did you have last night? What did you have yesterday? And so on, I might forget, but I'm much more likely to be honest when you ask me about actual things I recently did. Not what were you doing 10 years ago? What are you doing today? What did you have for breakfast? What did you have yesterday? Why did you eat that? And typically you'll find out what they say they do and what they actually did is going to be very different. So go for actual what happened stories. Talk less, listen more. There's a reason God gave you one mouth and two ears, okay? So in a customer interview, you should not be doing most of the talking. I have a lot of trouble with this, okay? Yesterday, I was guest lecturing at DCANT CTIS. The plan was an hour to an hour and a half. I thought I had been speaking for an hour and a half when they said, oh, it's been almost 2.5 hours. So, and most of it, unfortunately, I didn't even have an audience. The only people with their screens open were the teachers of the class. And fortunately, they were having a good time. So they enjoyed it. I'm not so sure about the students, okay? But yes, in the customer interview, okay? You're there to listen. You're there to get information from them. So ask a few questions when you have to, but when they start going, let them go. Unless they really go out and start, oh, politics and this, okay, you might find a way to bring them back to the subject. But you should be talking much less than the person you're trying to interview. Good, bad questions, okay? Do you think it's a good idea? Would you buy a product which did this? Okay? Do you think these are good or bad questions? Some of them are good, some of them are bad. I'm going to ask, how much would you pay for X? What would your dream product do? Why do you bother? What are the implications of that? Talk me through the last time that happened. Okay, so for example, do you think it's a good idea? Not a good question. okay? Because you shouldn't be trying to sell during the customer interview. You're there to understand the customer, who they are, what their problems are. So don't push your product on them, at least not yet. We're at customer discovery at this stage. You're not selling to them, not yet. Would you buy a product which did X? Would you buy a product that reduces your electricity consumption by 50%? Yeah, who wouldn't? Okay, are you stupid? Okay, what kind of, you don't need to ask that question. Okay, but again, can you do that? So technical feasibility would become a problem, or the lift guys say no ice cream questions. Okay, what is an ice cream question? Do you like ice cream? They say no reasonable person would say no to that. You know, any person, there are some exceptions, okay, lactose intolerance and stuff, but no normal person wouldn't like ice cream. So that's not something you should be asking. Just like, would you use an app which doubles your income? Who would say no to them, right? Okay, so don't go for the obvious and don't try to oversell your product. But is their income their biggest problem? What are their problems and so on? So that's what you're trying to get to. How much would you pay for X? Okay, or even better, in the survey, would you pay $0 to $1, $5 to $10? You know, and sometimes, would you pay $5 for this? Maybe they'd be willing to pay $50 for it, but you're not getting that information by limiting them in that way. A better question for that might be, what are you doing to solve that problem right now? How much is it costing you? Okay, so what are they spending right now might be a very good way to evaluate how much they'd be willing to spend. And especially if they're spending that money on a bad solution, wow, that's very good evidence they would at least be willing to pay that much for a good solution. Okay, so kind of things to go into. What would your dream product do? I don't know. You're asking about their hypothetical self. Why do you bother? What are the implications of that? This is a good digging in question, okay? And also, oh, that was too difficult. What does it mean, too difficult? For some people, it's, oh, it was impossible to solve. To some people, oh, I would have had to search for 15 minutes on Google to find how to do that. That too difficult is very different. Those two too difficults are very different. So there you might, oh, you know, what do you mean by that? Oh, I love this. What does it mean? It was too expensive. What is too expensive? Something which is too expensive for me and for you might be two very different things, right? Or for Sabanje, what is too expensive, right? So we need to get to the stories behind those and the data behind it. Talk me through the last time that happened. Excellent. Okay. Once you catch information about what really happened, dig in, try to get as much out of them as possible through these. Talk me through your workflow. Okay, what are the steps that are done? Who are the people that you ask for information about? Who makes the decision? How long does it take? Yes, these are definitely things you want information about, especially about purchase behavior, how decisions are taken, especially in a company or in a family, might be very interesting for you. What else have you tried? So I know that I've learned that there is this problem. How are you solving? How are you dealing with it right now? If you find out they're not doing anything to deal with that problem right now, be careful, take a step back. Why? The problem might not be as big as you imagine. If they're not doing anything to deal with the problem right now, it might not be that big, that important of a problem, okay? So they need to be trying some things and maybe failing. So something which they're spending a lot of time and money trying to solve and not solving it very well, excellent attack points, okay? find out more about that. Would you pay X for a product which did Y? Okay, not a good question. How are you dealing with it now? Yes, actual physical. What did you do? When did it happen? How much did it cost? And so on. Questions about actual things. Where does the money come from? Okay, who pays for it? Is there a budget? Who else should I talk to? Excellent question at the end of an interview, because sometimes, especially if they say, oh, you want to talk with Ahmed, and especially if they call and help you set up a meeting or an interview with them, that can be very useful, because it helps you find, people that know about the problem that you're trying to generate information about. So asking for references, who else, or are there any questions I should have asked and didn't? Sometimes they think, oh, they keep on asking all these questions, but about this, there's this big other thing going on. And again, keep your eyes and ears wide open, because sometimes when you focus just on your problem and you are asking questions about that, sometimes they're actually telling you a lot of things about another big problem which exists, but because you're so focused on this, it goes over your head, you don't hear it. So in customer interviews, you're trying to gather all the information possible. And sometimes you can find a much better idea from the information you're gathering if you know how to pay attention. YouTube, right? Online dating, online video dating, blah, blah, blah. If they had only focused on that, they would be dead. But they noticed that people needed something to help them share videos, and they pivoted to it, okay? The Lyft guys have an example about their dogs, okay? So they're talking about their dogs and, saying, oh, does your dog, do they lose a lot of their fur and so on? And they're focusing on that because they have an idea about a shampoo or something to help their pets not shed as much. But when you start talking about them, they say, oh, yeah, they shed a little, but that's all right. But man, the smell, that's the big problem. But you're just focused on this part, so you don't notice that they just told you another big problem for those pet owners. But if you had kept on being focused on that, you wouldn't have just skipped over that. Is there anything else I should have asked? Okay, and then links to these, so take a look at them. Before I run out of time, I also have, I'll be putting this up onto OtuClass as well. I don't think it's there yet. But again, here's some in Turkish, yeah. Listen more than you talk. Don't try to sell, that will come later. Try to understand the customer and their problems. Don't ask them, would you buy this thing that does this? Don't ask obvious questions, I scream. Don't offer solutions directly. You're trying to find the problem. Later on, you will get to the problem. You might have to go back to them with potential solutions, but first understand the problem and how big it is. A single person saying something doesn't make it proof, okay? So if people start saying the same thing, different people come back to, okay, that, but a single person, they might just be strange. They just might be stupid, okay? So you want more than one person saying the same thing before you claim it is. It might be interesting, but it's not proof yet. Past experiences, past performance is a very good estimator of what they will do again in the future, okay? So ask for stories about what actually happened rather than what would you do in this case. Take good notes, okay? Preferably go in teams of two. One person asking the questions and making comments, the other one, taking notes. Or if they say you can record this, maybe record it, but then you have to decipher it, okay? So it's difficult to interview and also take notes. that can be a problem. Boom, boom, boom. Okay.